Let's get started. So thanks everyone for joining today and welcome to the Dragonfly AI December Spotlight. We're going to use these sessions to interact with our existing users and also people in the industry, just to learn a little bits of insights that we're gathering. We might be talking to some clients or people in the industry. But today we're going to be focusing in on some new feature releases within the product and sort of talk you through how that can help everyone within the industry. For all those that are new to Dragonfly, we're an AI platform. We work with marketers, we work with agencies and brands and creative and insights teams, and we help to predict performance of creative. So everything that we do is orientated in that world. And we've got some new developments today that we want to discuss with you guys who are users and the wider audience, just to kind of bring that to life a bit. So it's an interactive session today. Please do ask questions as we go along. To introduce myself, my name is Matt Love. I head up the customer team within Dragonfly. So I help all of our clients to get value from the tool and work through their various questions and make sure that we can answer them. I'm very privileged today to also have James join us on the call as well.
Yep. Hi, everybody. So I'm James, Chief Product and Technology Officer at Dragonfly. So I look after everything product and tech, everything from roadmap, what we're working on with this month's release, which we're excited to showcase today. And also I can talk to you guys a little bit later on about what we're looking at for next year. So yeah, welcome. But so just a quick recap really on the November release. So the November release was essentially all about a new report that we put live in the studio called Hotspots. And the Hotspots report really is a very simple report. It was really about kind of speeding up how quickly you guys can get insight from the platform and how quickly you can identify where your audience is most likely to look first. But what we've also introduced is gaze plots. So starting to look at the sequence of viewing, where people look first, where they look second, where they look third, based on the prediction algorithm. There are generally two different questions that you commonly ask in the studio. One is, where is the most likely areas that my audience are going to look first? And the other is how are my key elements performing? And we call those areas of interest. So that could be your logo, a key claim, a call to action, etc. So the Hotspots report is really focused on the first example, where is my audience most likely to look? So there are three elements to the Hotspots report. Auto hotspot detection. So what we're doing there is we're identifying all of the attention grabbing areas within the scene, whether it's a web page or product packaging. And we're essentially using contouring analysis to identify where the key clusters are, like where are the shapes and the elements that are most eye-catching and drawing your eye towards. So once you've identified the hotspots, we then have the gaze plots layer, and that essentially shows you the sequence of viewing, the most likely sequence of viewing from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And then what we have at the end is also a brand new digestibility score. And the digestibility score is essentially an indication of how easily your audience can follow that predicted gaze path. So for example, if there are many more hotspots competing for attention, it's harder to follow the predicted gaze path. Or if those hotspots are all achieving a similar level of saliency, they're all equally attention grabbing. Again, it's quite difficult for your audience to kind of decide what's the most important to look at first, second and third, etc. So these three features come together and they form part of the new Hotspots report, which is available in Studio. And I think we've definitely had some great feedback so far. That went live in November. So hopefully if you're already a user of our platform or you're trialing it at the moment, you've had the opportunity to check it out and try it on your own content.
That's great. Thanks so much, James. Really exciting to see these reports go live. And I, as a user of the tool, have really seen the benefit of that, just to be able to sort of justify and help to understand which variant is best suited for my given use case. Just a quick question is, are you able to sort of give any insight into sort of the characteristics that we look for in a hotspot report and kind of what are the key insights we can get?
Yeah, I mean, I think really there's two main characteristics to consider. One is very simple. It's just the number of hotspots. The more hotspots you have, the more competing areas you have that are trying to win attention. Essentially, the less chance your audience has of honing in on what's important. So if you think about visual hierarchy, from a designer's perspective, what do you want people to look at first? Where do you want their natural gaze to follow within the design? So the number of hotspots will definitely have an influence over that. So it might be that you want to try and reduce the amount of distractors, which are highlighted in the report, or it might be that you want to try and boost the saliency or how attention grabbing certain areas are to try and improve, again, the experience for customers. So definitely the number of hotspots. And also the score for each hotspot. If the attention scores are very similar, again, you don't have really a hierarchy in place. You've essentially just got a flat kind of scene with many things trying to win attention, and that can increase cognitive load, make it harder for people to consume the information. So really it's those two, number of hotspots and the scores that each hotspot achieves, kind of drive that gaze path and digestibility for content.
Amazing, really useful. Thanks, James. And I'm presuming we've got a nice example on the screen here of what it's like a landing page. But is this going to change by variant type or by content type? So we might have like a theme within a planogram or an outdoor scene. Are there any sort of things to note, or is it applicable for all those different?
So it's certainly there are some differences depending on the type of content you're working with. I think it's mostly comes down to essentially expectations or what good looks like. If you take this kind of example here, you've got quite a kind of simple, clean design. There's a fairly small number of elements competing, so you'd expect to see a high digestibility score. But for example, if you're working with a different kind of content, let's say you're working with a menu board, or let's take like a catalog for a retailer. Obviously, there's going to be many more products competing within that kind of context. So I think it's important that there isn't a one size fits all for what kind of digestibility score you should be achieving. For an ad, it's going to be much higher than say a catalog or a menu board, which just is going to have more content that's trying to compete. It's really about just applying the core principles of understanding ultimately where your audience are most likely to look first, whether it's an ad or whether it's a menu board or a catalog, and ultimately thinking about whether that matches your design goals. What are you trying to achieve? Where do you want people to start looking first? And how does that sort of drive their experience, and does it lead to a good experience for the customer as well?
That's great. Thanks so much, James. They're really exciting. It's been great to be using that so far, and hopefully as have all of our clients on the call as well. So that's great to talk for November, but it's also, as I said earlier, we've also got a nice, exciting release due to go live this month. So do you want to sort of run through the kind of things that we're looking for in the December release, James?
Yeah, definitely. We're really excited about what's coming this month. Essentially, the theme is all about data, data portability, the ability to kind of export the results from the studio and take that data with you and combine it with other data sets that you may have. We work with a lot of data-driven teams, and this has been something that's definitely been hotly requested. So in December, we're packaging up 4 different features, which essentially all work really well together. So if we go left to right, just with some of the examples that we've called out here, we're starting with a new labeling feature for areas of interest. So again, if you're an existing client, you'd probably be familiar with our areas of interest report. And just if you're not, areas of interest is essentially where you can identify the key areas of interest, say logos, key claims, calls to action within your design, and you can assess their performance from an attention perspective. So whether that's understanding the probability of perception, how likely is it that your audience will see that thing within the design, or share of attention, how much of the overall kind of gaze time will go towards a key element within the design, say a button or a hero image, for example. So labeling will essentially make it much easier to compare performance of those elements across multiple designs. So one of the best things that Studio does is ABN testing, so the ability to have up to 26 versions of a design that you can compare side by side. And I think you'll have a chance to see that later, Matt, when you do the demo. So with the labeling, you'll be able to quickly draw areas of interest, label them, logo, call to action, key claim. And what that will do is allow us to essentially release this new side panel that's going to exist in the studio. And that's going to allow you to quickly rank the performance of your different versions according to a specific area of interest. So here we've got an example where we've picked the logo, and it will provide a quick ranking of which version essentially has the best score, depending on which metric you're using. So whether you're using the probability of perception or share of attention, it will show you which is the best performing variant. So those work really nicely together. And then really the powerhouse feature for this release, again, builds on that further. And we have a brand new data export. So right now the exports from Studio are all based on the visualizations. So when you build a report, you can export those as images to drop into presentations or share with your team. But with the new data export, you'll be able to export all of the kind of the raw values as an Excel spreadsheet. So whether that's the digestibility scores that we saw from the November release, or whether that's the metrics for the areas of interest, those will all be included in a data export. Essentially, you have 2 options when you export, visuals or data. You'll be able to choose which reports you want to include. and then you can take that data with you, and combine and merge it with other things. We're also making file names visible now within the studio, just again to make it even easier. Especially when you're ranking the performance, like with the side panel, you can reference which original file or which media asset that relates back to. So essentially, four features that all are kind of very harmonious and working well together as part of a big kind of data update to the studio.
That's great. Yeah, really exciting to look ahead to that. I think the two reports, the November release and the December release, seem to go in line really nicely. We've got the November release, which is allowing the platform to tell us, and as an end user, the things that people are likely to notice. And the December release is really allowing us to sort of drill in and ask the questions that we want to ask the creative. So really exciting to see that go live. And I'm excited to say, guys, I can kind of give us a sneak preview of what that will look like. So I'm just going to jump into the studio now. For all those that use Dragonfly, end users, be incredibly familiar to you. And for those that are new, this is our web-based platform that allows us to analyze any still assets. So I'm just going to create a new report here. I'm just going to upload some assets. So I'm just going to grab some files. Just a few. Just want to look at these ones here in particular. We can upload up to 26 different variants that we've got to really sort of ABN test the different versions we've got and have a look at how they perform. So I'm just going to pull in a pack design here. Dragonfly AI are expanding into hand wipes and antibacterial and wipes. We've got an example of a package here. I'm not too sure it's going to be as successful as our predictive design business, but it's good to diversify. So we've got a pack design here that we're going to trial, and the first thing we can look at is just really quickly look at that release that went live earlier in November, and I'll just quickly run through what we can do with this. So if we just have a quick look at this design, we've got the natural hotspots that have been formed here, so we can see all the key elements of my packaging are being called out there, which is great. That's exactly what I want to see. And I can then build on that, and I can start to understand that gaze path. So we're really looking here to understand what's the first thing that our customers are going to lock in on, and is that the right thing? And I'm very happy to say that our brand is the one that's going to be seen first, which is great. And we've got the images that kind of support that fragrance, that variant, which is really important to us. And we've got our claims here that follow and back that up. So it's a really nice flow there. So I'm really happy with that. The last thing I'm going to do then is add in our digestibility score. And that's scoring great as well. So the digestibility score, once again, is to reiterate what James said, that's telling me how easy it is for viewers to pinpoint these hotspots, so how easy it is for these to be noticed, and then the confidence level we have of that scan path being followed. So I'm really happy with this variant I've got, but I do have another idea that I want to kind of load into the tool as well. And what I'm going to do is show off the areas of interest report, just to kind of have another look at this. So we'll just click on the areas of interest report. This is the opposite. So whereas the hotspot report is the algorithm or the product telling me the things that the audience are most likely to notice, using the areas of interest, I can ask the tool the things that I want to see. So I'm actually going to bring in a second product here. So I'm going to go to 2 columns. For those of you that use the tool, you'll know that we can bring in and look up to 4 things on the screen at once. But if I had many different versions, I could load them all in as well. But I've just got the 2 ideas today that I want to compare. So I'm just going to start drawing some regions on my product list, some areas. And this is a new functionality. So this is claim 1. I can now label this as claim 1. I'm going to draw another over here. This is my second claim. Claim 2. And then I'm going to do a couple more regions. Actually, I'll draw one around the new bit at the top, the fact it's a new product, important to me. I'll just draw a couple more. We can do rectangles, we can also do polygons. If you have any awkward shapes, not a problem. I just draw this around a slight slant, like that. It's our brand. I'll do one more around the lemons here, so just like that. So you can see here, we can do whatever shapes we need to. This lemon's not a complete rectangle. It's just going to call an image. That's great. So
I think Matt, I think you missed the bottom right there. I think you didn't hit enter on the area of interest just before you copy it over.
Thank you.
No worries.
Really quick, just to add that again. So I've got all the main elements of my pack design, which is great. I can see how we're performing on variant A. Really nice sort of shortcut. I can just copy those areas of interest and I can paste it all. So if I had 20 different variants, I'd be pasting to all and just saves a bit of time. You can see here I just need to move these over slightly just to tweak because they're not in exactly the same position. I'm just going to really tweak that just to make sure I'm getting the right output from my report like that. I'm pretty happy with that. So I've got these scores now which are showing up, and again, for all of those that use the platform regularly, these were pretty familiar. I've got something called probability perception here, and these numbers are just telling me the percentage of the audience that are likely to notice these things at first hand. So you can see on both examples, the logo here is going to be seen by all of the audience, which is great. I'm just going to rename that report just so I know when I output this what I'm seeing. So that's our probability perception. I'm going to save that, and I'm just going to duplicate that now because I want to also look at share of attention. So I'm going to create that report. I'm just going to change the metric now to share of attention. So I've just added another report on here. You can add as many reports as you want to. Again, all those are users of the tool will know that, but I've now got a nice example of here of probability perception scores and share of attention. Share of attention is just telling the proportion of the total attention that is assigned to each area. So we've got 52% of all of our attention on the Dragonfly AI brand on version B and 45 on version A. So to have a look at this, in this example, I've just got two images here. I can export that as a visual output. But what I want to show you today is the new piece, which is exporting the data to Excel. So I've got those two reports that I've created, as well as my hotspots. I'm just going to run that export now. And this really sort of brings in line, if you're analyzing 20 different versions at once, 2 is okay on a screen, but just to really help make your lives easier and make our users' lives easier, and also fit in that analytics world, it's easier to kind of bring in third-party data if you wanted to look at different versions of variance and scale, but also store that historical data. So you've got some examples of how certain designs worked previously. So we can see now my Excel is downloaded. I'm just going to open this up and sort of talk through this. So we've got a few things that we can import or bring into our Excel. The first thing is the hotspots report that I looked at earlier. You'll notice within this, we've got the version name. We've also got the original file name. We've got that metric that's been applied here. And we've got the images as well. So we want a refresh of what those hotspots were like and the sequencing, and that is all in my Excel, which is great. Other things to note which are in here, we're also bringing in some explainers. So hopefully this will help all of our users share reports. Everyone that uses the tool is incredibly familiar with what digestibility means, what the different metrics mean. We're going to be making sure that there's a lot more shareable. So we're going to, in these Excel, adding explainers so you can work with colleagues more effectively. I can now see the digestibility score between A and B. I can see the number of hotspots there, and I can see the gaze plots that are there and their relevant scores. So really nice place to have this, and I can now look through this as I need to decide which is the winning variant. Awesome areas of interest report. Again here, the visuals and output exactly as you left it. So I actually left the heat map off in this example. I just wanted to see those scores. You can see those areas that I've done and drawn with the labels there. So they're nice and neat in this export. I've also got the different areas that I named. So I've got claim 1, I've got the new design, I've got brand, image, and claim. Again, I can have as many of these as I need to. And now I can really easily see which version best hits my criteria or the output that I want. We've got probability perception here. So again, I've got the output of that, but I did do another report because I also wanted to take into account the share of attention. And you can see here my metrics changed, as has my metric explainer. So again, some nice new features there to really help us to stretch that ABN testing, to hopefully accelerate the testing and learning culture that you can bring in to your organizations and that you can do with the tool. And it's in a nice area now, so I can really easily assess and compare my different examples. So that was it for a short demo today. I hope that was really helpful for everyone that's never seen the tool, and also for everyone that is brand new to the tool, hopefully giving you a good example of where Dragonfly AI can help you.